Thank you very much for joining. My name is Michael Trapani. I'm a product marketing manager at IBM Marketing Cloud. We're joined by Ashley Blackmon from Zillow. We're also here with Baron Concours from Pizza Hut. Can you take a second to give a little background on yourselves and why you're here?
Sure. So again, my name is Ashley Blackmon. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Zillow Group. And if you're not familiar with Zillow Group, it's a portfolio of the largest real estate and home-related marketplaces and brands in the country. So that's Zillow, Trulia, Hot Pads, StreetEasy, and Naked Apartments in New York. And I run a team of performance marketers, as well as a team that handles all of our agent or B2B marketing, and we are consistently using data to get better at our marketing strategy and campaigns.
Yeah, I'm Baron Concours, and I'm responsible for digital business at Pizza Hut. So includes sort of technology, marketing, and within that sort of analytics, CRM, loyalty, and sort of the whole strategy around the attraction, conversion, and retention of our customers.
Awesome. And thank you for the pizza.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ashley, I heard that Zillow is giving out free San Francisco apartments as well.
We thought we could help out with that.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, guys. So get those on the way out. It's really exciting. So marketing in the cognitive era. So much to talk about. I think we can maybe drill right into it. We don't have a ton of time. So, both been in the business for a while, veterans in digital and marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about the biggest shifts that you've seen, even in the last year? Ashley, you can start.
Yeah. I'll start. So when I think about the last year, I think about a couple of things. There are many big shifts, but two that really stand out to me are the emphasis on big data as well as marketing automation. When I think about big data, you hear it thrown around in a variety of different ways. But when I think about it from the marketer's perspective, I think about it as knowing information about your user so that you can reach the right user with the right message at the right time. And there are tools, whether you're talking analytics tools or marketing technology tools that help you do that. So when you get a message from Zillow, for instance, we know about your home search, and we can not only remind you about the homes, whether you're buying, selling, or renting, that you're interested in, but we can also recommend homes that may also fit your criteria. And in terms of automation, we're continuing to get better and better at this stepwise, I guess, connection between touch points. When people use our site or our mobile apps, being able to track their behavior over time and continuing to customize their experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think the two things for me are what's a big topic of this conference is messaging, right? I mean, I think we're at the forefront of it now, but I think we have to pay a lot of attention to see what happens to the other forms of communication. Like we all know, sort of like email is probably going to start trending down heavily at some point. I mean, people are bombarded with emails every day, and most people, if you can't get their attention in that headline, it's going to be deleted before it's ever open, right? Yeah. So I think that paying attention to messaging and sort of focusing on the use cases that are really relevant to a consumer and a consumer can walk away from and be like, wow, that was easy. If they can't walk away from that and they kind of like are iffy on it, they're probably not coming back, right? And so I think that's one thing, and I think I would just, add on to what she said around sort of like, whatever, big data means, right? The way I like to think about it is like, what's great about today's world is, everything's a math problem. There's not one single question I can't ask and not get to the bottom of it through sort of all the, analytics and segmentation and sort of the predictive things that we're doing, that sort of help drive the top and bottom line.
Right, and that's I think an interesting point, because it seems like there are two sides of this cognitive engagement, and the first is the B2C side, where we're talking about bots and AI that the consumer sees, and then on the other side there's the kind of B2B aspect, which is maybe AI that the marketer can use or the technologist can use to make their customers' experience better through them. So can you tell us a little bit about, maybe Ashley, you can start, about some of the stuff that you're doing today within either customer engagement in real time, as you were mentioning, anything that's consumer facing or even facing your marketers?
Sure. So I'll sort of continue what I was mentioning before. We're getting better and better at understanding our user behavior, and this is sort of rising with consumer expectations. I know that all of you have probably seen over the years ads that maybe you were shopping for a shoe, and then you saw that shoe follow you all the way across the internet, whether you're on your desktop or your mobile device, and it quickly went from, whoa, space age, to something totally creepy, because you were wondering why this thing was following you. Things weren't updating in real time. So similarly for Zillow Group, when you're searching for a home, a few years ago, it was okay for us just to remind you about your search and when things change and update. But now that's not enough. We need to provide recommendations from that search. We actually need to infer your search. If you don't tell us you want to be updated, we actually connect the dots and remind you through push, through text, or through email, depending on your preferences, about homes that you're looking for. And then we can actually suggest adjacent neighborhoods and opportunities for you that you might not have searched, just because there's so much information out there. And obviously the home buying experience is not a simple one. So that's on the front end. On the back end, my team, I'll tell you about my performance marketing team. We're using data feeds in real time to update our advertising channels so that users will see the right message, whether they're on a social network like Facebook. They may see homes that are similar to the ones that they're searching for, or actually the ones they've taken a look at, and we're updating that in real time based on their behavior. And that's not only understanding the data on the back end, the variety of tools, but able to connect the dots between the ad networks and our systems.
That's great. I mean, I think one of the most interesting things out of that is the expectations constantly changing. Mm-hmm. So there's no like pot of gold at the end of the rainbow as far as, you know, we've met all the expectations, we're good. Like it's almost as if the idea is like if you're a marketer and you're comfortable with the experience you're delivering, you're doing something wrong because there's some expectation that isn't being met always, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Baron, you announced a really cool bot earlier today. Tell us a little bit about that, maybe what went into it, and maybe some other engagements and things that you're doing out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just, you know, we all sort of have to become students of human behavior, you know, as I like to say. And I think that, you know, based on just sort of a lot of the reports that are coming out, like with Mary Meeker's latest report and things like that, it's clear messaging is taking off as a primary tool for everyone. And like, you know, just going back to the old days, I mean, where are the eyeballs, right? And I think if people are spending a vast majority of time in sort of like SMS text app, email app, and then messaging apps, then we have to think about how to meet them, you know, where they are. And I think to your point, like consumers' expectation now is starting to change to where, why do I have to download another app, right, to do what I want to do? And I think that there's some fatigue there that we have to just sort of continue to watch. But I think, you know, as I talked about on the stage earlier, people will always gravitate to whatever's easiest. Right. So if you put something out there and it's not easy, or it's not easy as the next alternative, then it's just not going to work. And so with our bot, we're trying to focus on those use cases that the consumer can really walk away from and be like, that was easy, I'm going to come back and do that again. Right. Versus I tried it once and I'm not really sure what that really did for me, so I'm just going to go back to my old way of doing things.
It's great, yeah, and bots now are joining the ranks of customer engagement, as we're seeing. So there's so many other channels within that area, and you know, it's interesting because, as you're saying, not just is there a fatigue with too many app downloads, but there's also this fatigue from the user on customer engagement, right? Like you can reach your customer no matter where they are, but so can every other, not just competitor, but basically every other brand can reach a customer. And so, you know, what do you find is the most successful channel to reach your customers? What's responsive? What are you getting good feedback out of? You know, is it push? Is it email? Is it something like a bot? What are you seeing out there, Ashley?
Sure. So with Zillow, in terms of our highest engagement channels, it's basically anything that we're able to customize for a user's experience. So again, sort of piggybacking on what I was saying before, if we know enough about you and your behavior, we can provide an experience, whether on the product itself, whether you're in the app or on the site, or through one of our marketing channels that makes sense to you. And I know we were kind of beating up a little bit on email, but email has been one of our big contenders in terms of engagement, particularly when it's connected to your activity across the platform. So what I would say with that, or couch it with, is that it doesn't work very well if you're just sort of sending a message and you don't know that much about a user. But if you can connect the dots between what they might be looking at today versus what they did yesterday, whether they're on multiple devices or not, and can sort of stream that together, we see really, really strong engagement and a lot of success there.
Yeah, I think I would just, I think consumers are getting smarter and smarter by the day. I think that, like, if they're sort of consistently bombarded with, like, the generic message, I call it the kind of spray and pray marketing, I think that, like, they quickly are like, wow, this is like a brand that doesn't get me, right? I use the analogy all the time of, like, my wife is a vegetarian. She's not going to order anything but a vegetarian pizza. And it's sort of like off-putting when she gets an email that said, hey, we have a special on meat lovers. Right? She's like, well, here's clearly a brand that doesn't get me, right? And so people have high expectations about getting sort of content and messaging that's really relevant to them at the right time, more importantly. I mean, some of the really cool things that the team's been working on in my area lately is that, like, for example, weather is a big driver of our business. When the weather's bad, that's actually a good thing for us because people don't want to get out. They want pizza delivered. And so we are able to automate sort of like a lot of our marketing messaging, and whether it's through email or SMS, to sort of based on the weather patterns that are happening in the U.S. So if there's a big snowstorm about to hit Chicago, then we make sure all of our customers in Chicago get a message at about 4 to 5 o'clock when it's that decision-making time for what you're going to have for dinner, and say, hey, look, there's no reason to get out tonight. We're here for you. Right. And I think that's the kind of sort of like consumers look at that and they're like, that's useful to me, right? And it's very specific to sort of like their region and very specific to a certain time of day.
Sure, it's got to be valuable and relevant.
Yeah,
it's like those are right. It's like people say they hate. You guys remember pop-up ads, right? People say they hate pop-up ads, but if every pop-up ad you saw was 99% off your favorite thing, you'd love pop-up ads. So it's like that value and making sure that it's delivered at the right time. So let's talk a little bit about the internal shift. It seems difficult for any individual to stay current on every emerging technology, every new communication channel. So let's say, for example, an employee of yours sees a new capability out in the market and they want to use it. They want Zillow or Pizza Hut to use it. What can an employee say to you that would get you interested in trying it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you touched on it a little bit earlier. I think there's two facets. There's like, one, how is this going to improve the customer experience? And then two is it somehow going to sort of create sort of efficiencies that result in, our ability to spend more money in smarter ways elsewhere, or is it going to drive the business on the back end? So I think we're always up for things that are going to improve the customer experience, number one. And then and I think I'm fortunate enough to work for a company that sort of has a very innovative culture, just by the spirit of like the products and what we do. It's okay to try and fail, and then we learn from that and then we move on, because I just think that, like, it's hard to be innovative if you're not willing to fail.
So I would echo Baron's thoughts here. The other thing I would say is, along with the shift in what or what might make a new technology interesting to me, if someone on the team brought it up to me, is just a little business case. So this brings us to another point that, like Baron said, everything's a math problem, and marketers are more and more quantitative. And I have a whole team of marketers that years ago might have looked like analysts, which has been a huge shift. And so they're very comfortable not only taking a look at what's out there and available and new for us, whether it's going to be great for the end consumer or help us with efficiencies on the back end, but also providing sort of the metrics that we're trying to drive, as well as the cost analysis, whether that's the ROI or some other metric that's important. So those are sort of the main things that I look for.
Got it. More data-driven business case. So sellers build business cases for your clients who are looking to buy from you. Do that work for them. So Baron, you talked about trying and sometimes failing. I think you're right. I think it's an important part of innovation. Can you give us an example of a time where maybe there was a new trend or a new technology that you wanted to try, and you tried it, and maybe it did fail? And what did you learn from it? And what's something you can share with the audience that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about this a lot because I think about where we are today with bots and messaging. And like in 2008, when I first started with Yum, we launched SMS ordering of pizza. And in hindsight, it was probably early, right? But I think after a couple of years, it was shut down because it was, in hindsight, way early, right? And I think that sticking with, and I think Pizza Hut's widely recognized as selling the first item ever on the internet in 1994. Right, I'm sure there were many years between 1994 and mid-2000 where it was probably seen as not taking off or not being successful. I mean, luckily we stuck with it. So I think if I look back on our failures, it's not sort of taking the time to do all the activations maybe you need to shift consumer behavior into what it is you're trying to do, or not sticking with it, long enough. So, I think that's just something that, if you're willing to be early and first mover, then you just got to stick with it.
So SMS ordering, how did that work back then? Was there somebody on the other end responding, or?
No, basically you would flag your favorite order on your sort of like admin on the website, and you could SMS Pizza Hut and just be like, send me my usual. Okay. And that would have triggered an order that was sent. And going back to 2008, it was before its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So and then apps came right after that, probably. So it was like a huge change right after that. So
yeah, apps were about the same time, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. How about you, Ashley?
Yeah, so when I was thinking about this, I was actually thinking of my agent marketing team. So one of their responsibilities is driving demand to our core revenue driving product, which is actually for real estate agents. And the whole goal is for real estate agents to connect with our sales team so they can buy advertising on our site. That's how Zillow Group generates revenue. And one of the tests that we ran very early, actually, with Twitter was an advertising campaign. And the whole goal was to target, in theory, real estate agents and reduce all the friction in the sort of demand or conversion funnel. So what this looked like was an interesting ad on Twitter and a one-click option that actually connected you directly to our sales team. This was awesome in space age. This was...
So it was targeted to agents,
yes,
so that they could instantly be connected. Okay.
Instantly connecting from Twitter, through a variety of our advertising campaigns. And this was probably about 2.5 years ago, so very, very early with some of Twitter's advertising. And this failed miserably. It's just way too early, but also we realized we need to have a little bit more friction between real estate agents and our sales team, just because I would argue that real estate agents, in general, the profession is not always the most technologically savvy. So what we put out there was something very cool and enticing, one click, and they weren't often expecting to talk to a sales team. So if any of you work between marketing and sales, you know that there's a tight tension between providing demand and providing quality. So we had to take some learnings from there and actually revert back to some more old-fashioned advertising techniques.
Wow.
But it's a good test.
Adding friction, that's amazing that you, well, I mean, and you find you wouldn't have known that if you didn't try it out, so
Exactly.
So that's great. So we have time for one more question, and then we're going to pass it over to some questions from the audience. What excites you the most about the next 3 years in technology? What are you most excited about? Baron, you can start.
I think there's a couple of things. I mean, I'm looking forward to a world where digital marketing is just marketing, right? I mean, I think that that can just be like it's marketing, right? It's not like there's traditional marketers and digital marketers. It's like it's part of everyone's core competency, and everyone sort of rallied around sort of like this world we live in today, which is just about like analytics and show me the data and let's make decisions based on the data. So that's really exciting. I mean, I think the second thing is just what this conference is all about. The messaging, right? Like, I think it's the platform has a lot of potential uses for sort of like not just like in our case ordering, but like customer care and just sort of how you balance that, to where it's some of those customer care scenarios are not sort of seen as a bot, but seen as still more of a personalized experience.
Sure, and you have that. It's kind of almost a disadvantage as far as the type of customer, but every single customer who talks to you is hungry. So that's like right. There's instantly that potential of things going bad really quickly.
That's right. You're either going to be the hero or the goat.
Yeah.
Right. So people are hungry. They got kids screaming.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty good opportunity to either save the day,
High intensity, I'm sure. How about you, Ashley?
When I think about the next couple of years, I'm excited for virtual reality. So from the Zillow landscape that looks like virtual tours of homes. And I guess over this past weekend, if any of you have been keeping up with Pokemon Go, we know that augmented reality is here and likely going to continue improving. So these are some really, really good signals and actually quite fun if anybody's been playing.
I think there's one upstairs, by the way, by the expo booths.
And along with that is just the ability to take massive amounts of data to make better decisions and to customize user experiences so that everyone has a personalized and unique experience. I don't think we're there yet today, but I do see that as necessary to scale, which is kind of counterintuitive. Be able to go one-to-one, but at a massive scale.
Sure. And it seems like, VR seems like a no-brainer for a company like Zillow. And I've actually found my apartment on StreetEasy, currently the one that I live in now. And there were a few viewings that I couldn't make just because I was at work. And if I was able to do that, that would have helped. Just see the apartment. That would have been great. Thanks. I'm happy with the one that I got, though, so we're okay. Great. So we have a few minutes for some questions from the audience. Anybody have any questions for Baron and Ashley? Got one right there.
Oh, wait.
Got a microphone
Let me come
coming
to you. Here I come. We want to hear you.
Great, thanks. This is for Baron. How do you guys intend on driving people to these bots like the one that you released today? At least, longer term, and right now you're probably just playing with it a little bit, but once you actually want a lot of people to use it?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think, with our partner Conversable, there's some other big brands they've already worked with, and so we have a good little peer network going on sort of how we're going to your point, activate consumers. The good news is in our world, there's all sorts of tactics you can use to sort of give people specific deals that are maybe only available through that channel, or give them a discount that can sort of shift that behavior to get them to try it once. And then when they see how easy it is, it's going to stick. I think for people that don't have, let's say, those financial carrots out there, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge. Because at the end of the day, the hardest part of that experience is getting people to try it or know about it and educate them on how to use it. I think time and time again, there's been a lot of examples of just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. And so there has to be an intentional strategy around sort of activating for that channel.
Great. Any other questions? Hey, I think we got a mic coming to you too.
I'm coming.
Hi, my question is to Ashley. So since this conference is about messaging and bots, so I want to know what is Zillow doing with messaging or bots, or what it is planning to do?
Great question. So in terms of messaging, sort of when you think about the home buying process, you start with sort of dreaming about a home. You have a life event, whether you finish school, get a new job, get married, have a child, etc., where you need a new home, and you start your search. In terms of messaging, we're connecting the dots between the search, as well as connecting consumers or home shoppers with real estate agents. Same thing goes for renters and landlords. And we're getting better and better at the shifts in between the behaviors you take and the platforms. We haven't gotten to a space where we're just fully automating that communication with a bot, mainly because we think the home buying process is fairly complex. It's a big decision, sometimes the largest financial decision anyone makes in their lifetime. And so we're working to move along with consumer sort of demand there. We'd love to connect the dots from just handing off to an agent or a landlord to the final purchase or lease signing, which is something that we're working on to try to help you along the way and predict when you might need, your next space. But we're still getting there.
Sure. And you are doing, intelligent messaging
Yes.
through the app and other channels as well by, you mentioned the saved searches and a few other things too. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Any other questions?
One right over here.
Hi. So whenever you think about Facebook Messenger and whenever you think about, for example, Amazon Alexa, do you think of these platforms as definitely a benefit for your products, or do you have any concerns that they may eventually, for example, make it more difficult for you to have that direct relationship with your customer?
Yeah, I mean, for us, again, I think one of the great things about my business is we know everything about our customers, right? Like we know their name, address, phone number, email, because they have to order from us, and we have to deliver it. And so I think that that's information that we're always going to have, so, and I think it's information that quite honestly, any other restaurant company would probably kill for, because they have to go through all sorts of hoops to get them to get their customers to give them that information. So for us, I mean, regardless of how people order, I mean, we're going to have that relationship just because we're going to know who they are, and we're going to be able to track their behaviors and their spend and things like that. So we don't, I just think that like, if, like for example, Amazon Echo, what's going on with that right now, and it's taking off so quickly. I mean, you can choose to ignore what's happening and what customers want. I don't think that's a winning formula, but I think that you just have to figure out how you're going to adapt to meet the ever-changing consumer behavior versus, the other way around.
And I'd say something similar. Zillow Group, we think of ourselves as a media company, and our asset really is the data and information that we provide to home shoppers to help them make better and more informed decisions about their next purchase or lease. And we are sort of agnostic to what tools they might use to do that. So if it's helpful for us to push information through Facebook Messenger, per se, to you about your home or your rental, et cetera, we'll do it.
Cool. Good. Looks like that's all the time we have. So thank you very much, Ashley, Barron, for joining us again. My name is Michael. Feel free to check out the IBM booth upstairs, and have a great rest of the conference. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.